Today we're going to be looking at something very different than what we normally cover here, guys. This is from the website called Basic Income Today, which references normally things around a universal basic income in other articles. But this one is about guys standing and the evidence for basic income is now sufficient. So let's read into it together, guys. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is REGANELITE here, and we're going to be looking at something a little bit different today. This is from the website Basic Income Today, and this is about guy standing giving the evidence for basic income is now sufficient. And it was useless to make minor changes to the old system. A new system was needed. The evidence was clear. So obviously, you guys know about my passion, about how much I feel that a universal basic income is something that is needed in our day and age now. We are getting to that point where people will need a certain state amount of income to come into our pockets. Now let's read what Guy Standing has to say about it, guys. So, in 1942, as people started to think about remaking society after the war. Let me just move my mic a bit closer just in case you didn't hear me. In case I was too quiet, guys, I do apologise. Start again. In 1942, as people started to think about remaking society after the war, William Beveridge wrote a report for the British government that was to shape the welfare state in Europe. He wrote, "It is time for revolutions, not for patching." What he meant is that it was useless to make minor changes to the old system. A new system was needed and the evidence was clear. Today we are in a similar juncture. The social policies of the 20th century are outdated. Selective schemes in what economics called contingency risks, such as a spell of unemployment, an illness or an accident, do not deal with the defining challenges of our age. We live at a time of rentier capitalism, in which more income goes to owners of property, physical, financial or intellectual, while less goes to those who rely on labour and work for their incomes. This could not be more true about our day and age, to be fair, guys, when you think about it. Like, is it really just happening in the UK? Is it happening around the world? Do we feel more shorter in our pockets as a result of things going on around us? I think there's a good argument to make on that behalf, guys. Coupled with this trend, a new class structure has taken shape, with a tiny, absurdly rich plutocracy facing a growing precariat, experiencing chronic insecurities and erosion of civil, social, economic and political rights. Above all, we are in an age of chronic uncertainty, portrayed in terms of unknowns. Millions face consistent anxiety and stress due to the high probability of being hit by unanticipated shocks, not knowing if they will be able to cope with the consequences or recover from them. This is why basic income has moved to the centre of progressive social thinkable. Sensible policymakers and commentators are realising that most people are at risk and that insurance schemes are inappropriate for responding to uncertainty. A healthy society is one in which as many people as possibly have basic security, and that is simply impossible at the moment. It is not good enough for government to say that if you become poor aid, you'll be provided. Means-tested assistance fails to offer a real safety net. Too many people are excluded. There is a big poverty trap and there is a chronic uncertainty about what will be received. However, something has been happening, amounting potentially to a revolution by stealth, particularly since COVID. There has been an acceleration in the number of basic income pilots and experiments around the world. Remarkably, a majority of them have been taking place in a country that until recently was one where there had been little support for that basic income, and that is the United States. Today, about 100 experiments are taking place there, or just complete or about to start. So far, over 100 cities in 32 states have experiments. In California alone, there are over 40 schemes giving over 12,000 people basic incomes, costing over $180 million in public and private funds. The drive has been led by the mayors of Guaranteed Income Scheme. But those mayors are not alone. There are over 50 other experiments in states as different as Arkansas, California, Connecticut, Georgia, New Mexico, New York, and Texas. And at least 8 schemes are about to start. Several of the schemes are those leaving care homes, similar to a pilot in Wales, where the devolved Labour government is giving a generous basic income to hundreds of young people, and I am proud to be a technical advisor to that scheme. There have also been pilots in Africa, Asia, Latin America, and Europe. Results from evaluations are pouring in. The evidence is clear. It is so clear that we can say with confidence that we have sufficient. The challenge next is political. How do we turn this into a political? The way we do this is we have to push this emphasis of how important the needs are to the people. You have to show this to the public before you can show it politically, because the public do not understand universal basic income, and it has to be explained to them in a simple terms, and why the basics of it, the positives of it, and how it works in the long term. Everything comes at a cost. There is no question about that. But so did our national health care in the United Kingdom when they started that up. People were asking, how are we going to pay for it? Okay, it's not in the right place right now, but throughout that history of our national healthcare service that we as taxpayers have paid for, has provided healthcare for free people. Not worrying about how you're going to pay for your treatment. Imagine that you are someone who is trying to make it their way in life, and for whatever reason, your job or whatever, you have an accident, whatever it could be, forces you to be stuck at home. This is the backdrop to that. This is your security net, this basic income, where you don't have all this paperwork and red tape, that you might, and hoops that you need to jump through in order to pass it, and you get it straight on the go. It's there for you. It watches over you. It looks after you. Taking away that stress, that anxiety, that worry about what's going to happen next. Think about it from that point of view. What is the evidence? Overwhelmingly, regardless of the design or selective groups, a key result is improved mental and physical health. This is immensely relevant since in the era of uncertainty there has been rising morbidity and rising mortality rate in Britain, the USA, and in some other countries. Pilots in Arkansas and New York, echoing a result found in a big pilot in Manitoba, have reported significant increases in the use of healthcare facilities. Another common finding is improving housing security. Property owners are more prepared to rent to people with an assured income, and basic income refugees are more prepared to take the risk of renting. Projects in Vancouver, California, and Ontario, drawing on the success of one of the cities in London in 2010, have also shown the homeless moving off the streets. That's a huge statement. Getting the homeless off the street, giving them an opportunity to get to make something of themselves. A step in the right direction. It's a major thing, guys. Children are the main beneficiaries. A pilot in Washington, D.C. found baby health improved. One in Mississippi found mothers were spending more on school pupils. Most dramatic has been the finding from an ongoing pilot that began in North Carolina in 1996, that children in families receiving basic incomes were on average 1 year ahead of school by age 16. Schemes have shown that many recipes use their basic incomes to reduce life-constraining debt. In Austin, Texas, half the representatives did so. A majority, by 75% or more, representatives also reduced debt in a scheme in San Antonio. There have been anecdotal evidence that the individual basic income has enabled women to walk out of abusive relationships and women in general to find more financial independence, especially from women who are who are stuck and trapped in those cycles and don't have a way out. Basic income can give them a way out. Finally, contrary to prejudged commentary, there is considerable evidence that basic income results in more work, not less. Part of the reason is that the recipients have more confidence and energy. Partly is because there is no poverty trap, no precariat trap. People retain the basic income if they increase their labour. Although it was shamefully aborted midway through it, an experiment in Ontario, and although the provisional government tried to suppress the evidence, the data showed that recipients had continued to labour and many had increased it. But perhaps the most famous experiment in terms of media coverage was one conducted by the governor of Finland between 2017 and 2019, in which 2,000 randomly selected unemployed received €560 a month. Typically, the prejudge of the mainstream media, The Guardian and the BBC, announced in mid-2018 that it had been abandoned as a failure. This was false. It began on the day planned and ended precisely 2 years later. As planned on the outset, rigorous evaluations showed that the unemployed did not reduce their economic activity and experienced an improvement in mental and physical health. Even though a new centre-right government introduced an activation scheme to pressure the unemployed to take the job, at the end of the pilot, the employment rate of basic income recipients who had not been subject to that pressure was no longer then of those threatened with sanctions. There is no space here to deal with other findings, but in developing countries as well, pilots have found increased work, improved nutrition, health, schooling and sanitation, and an advocacy effort among women, minorities and those with disabilities. In short, if governments were genuine in saying we will apply evidence-based policy, we would have a basic income system already. But the political canons are holding back the waves. It is this that demands our campaigning attention now. Most politicians are not real leaders. They follow what they think is the public mood, or what they think will improve their re-election chances. They are optimistic rather than principled. This does not mean they are cowards, corrupt, or immoral. Well, I think I would disagree with the word corrupt, because there is a lot of politicians that are corrupt, to be fair. But too many have spaghetti backbones, that is, weak moral abilities. Fortunately, some are not like that. They should take heart. Polls in many countries are showing majorities in favour of basic income, and whereas 10 years ago most people did not know what basic income meant, now many do know. Prejudge still comes in newspaper articles and in hastily comments on social media, but more people are able to counter than prejudge. Young educated members in the precariat are speaking up. Many can point to the Georgia province in South Korea, where 125,000 youths are receiving basic income. Others can cite the results from all the pilots and experiments taking place. I end this article with a prediction of a domino view where a few countries introduce a basic income. More will quickly follow. It is eminently affordable. I believe the optimum way of affording it is by creating commons capital funds. The nucleus for this route already exists. Two very different countries have announced they will be introducing a basic income in the very near future, Barbados and South Africa. Perhaps they will be the first dominoes to fall. People's health and happiness and the political stability of their countries will be dramatically improved. Let us build the momentum and a civilizing future. And that was by Guy Standing, guys. What did you guys think of that? We need universal basic income, and we need more evidence for it. There's a great deal of evidence, without a doubt, in the United States of America, but the problem, I would say in particular for us here in the United Kingdom, is that it's not being highlighted very well. It's kind of being shunned away, and they don't really want to make a talk and stand about it. Now, like I said about the NHS, this can work. And if people ask me, well, how do you pay for such a thing? Well, you pay it the same way, like a tax, in the same way that we pay for national insurance. Everyone pays into the pot. Everyone pays in. Everyone. And everybody gets the same amount. Rich or poor, everyone gets the same amount. And I think the way that works is actually pays you back in the long term, because the idea is that it puts money in your pocket, which means it can fuel your economy. It means you can pay your bills. It means you can put food on your plate. It means you can buy something that you haven't been able to buy. It means you could put that money towards a savings, college. It means you could use that money to build up and start a business potentially in the future. The options are limitless. We need to help people. This is what it will do. And there are people in power who do not want to give the public money. They don't want to put a hand in their pockets, and they would rather keep it in the hands of third parties away from us. This is not going away, and it's going to keep getting talked about. But there's Guy Standing's evidence for basic income, guys. What did you make of this? Let me know down in the comments below about this article. I thought it was quite fascinating to read, that is for sure, guys. I had not read it until then, but I thought reading something a little bit different to what we normally read. So, yep, as I said, let me know down in the comment section below what you guys think. Like, share and subscribe as always. Thank you very much for watching. I hope to catch you all very, very soon.